Hare Krishna everyone. In this Bhagavad Gita As It Is session, we're going to look at chapter 9 verse 27, which goes Yat karoshi yadashnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. English translation. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So let's take a brief look at this verse before we go into more detail. So Krishna says that a devotee should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. And everything that is done has to be somehow or other dovetailed to Krishna. Because by dovetailing all the activities to Krishna, one becomes freed from bondage to work. One becomes free from the results of work, the results of karma, which is it could be auspicious. If we do good work, it's going to be auspicious. If we do bad, it's inauspicious results. So if we channel everything to Krishna, then we're freed from this. We're freed from bondage to work because it becomes devotional service. And devotional service is very, very strong. It burns to ashes all our sinful reactions. So Krishna says, whatever you eat. So we all have to eat, right? We eat every day, but there's different kinds of eating. Some people may eat to satisfy themselves, which is what most people would do. But devotees don't eat for sense gratification, for the pleasure of the tongue. Devotees cook the food with love and offer it to Krishna first, because devotee wants to make nice dishes for Krishna. And after Krishna has eaten the food, after Krishna has accepted the food, then the devotee will partake of this food, and it's called prasad. Krishna is the supreme absolute Lord. While we only eat with our mouth, Krishna can eat with any part of his body. He's not restricted like us because he is God. He can eat with his eyes, he can eat with his ears, he can eat with his hands. So Krishna, normally we offer to a deity of Krishna. He sees it and he eats that way. And he's so kind that he doesn't just eat up everything and leave nothing for us. He eats, and yet everything remains there for us to eat. So whatever we eat, we should, before eating it, offer the food to Krishna. Simply by offering food to Krishna, we can become devotees. And obviously the prasad is also it's sanctified food, and we don't incur sinful reactions from eating food that has not been offered. So Krishna says, whatever you offer or give away. So a lot of people like to give away things in charity to others. So Krishna says, if you want to give charity, then do it to me. So whatever you offer or give away, do it as an offering to me. So Krishna has, and he says, whatever austerities you perform. So basically, austerities, penances, sacrifice. So Krishna has provided us with everything, and if we just utilize it for ourselves and don't offer it back to him, then it's like we're thieves, really. We're just using everything that belongs to Krishna and not really offering it back to him. So if one does not spend his money for yajna, for sacrifice, doesn't want to give charity to Krishna. Not that Krishna needs this, it's for our own benefit that he gives us the opportunity to do that. So if one does not spend his money for yajna, for sacrifice, he is understood to be a thief, because everything belongs to Krishna and should be offered back to him. And the scriptures explain that one of the foremost duties of a grihastha person or a family person is to give in charity, and not just to anyone but to suitable persons. And when a person does that, that leads to advanced spiritual life, and it purifies the heart. We'll look at that in more detail later on. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna, has recommended that only one kind of sacrifice should be done in this age, and that's the Sankirtan Yajna, or simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So let's look at things in more detail. In this presentation, because we've already covered offering food in previous presentations, we're just going to focus on charity. So Krishna says, whatever you offer or give away, do that as an offering to me. So we're just going to focus here on charity. So why do we have to give charity? So, as we mentioned before, it is recommended in the scriptures that grihasthas have to give in charity. So, grihasthas are maintaining a family, the people going to work, and they're earning, as opposed to sannyasis, for instance, who travel the world preaching, or brahmacharis. So, grihasthas have to give in charity. In Bhagavad Gita 18.5, Krishna says, acts of charity, acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So why is Krishna asking for this? It's not that Krishna is very poor and he needs our money, he needs our charity. It's not that. Krishna is actually, he is, the Lord is the husband of the goddess of fortune. He doesn't need anything. He is actually the original proprietor of everything, and he does not need our charity. So why is he recommending that we do this? Is because it's for our own spiritual progress. It's for our own spiritual progress. We offer things to Krishna, we get purified. And so let's look at the different reasons. So if by the grace of the Lord, it is always by the grace of the Lord that we might be opulent in this life, or might have a lot of material wealth, fame, power, education, beauty. We need to understand that all of these things, they are gifts of the Lord, and so they must be utilized for his service, not our sense enjoyment. By austerities, by worship of the Lord, and by distribution of charity, we can purify the possession of wealth. So if we have a lot of wealth, we can purify it. Maybe in the process of acquiring the wealth, we might have committed some offenses, incurred some sinful reactions, maybe earning it in a not very good way. So I have to purify this wealth by offering it to the Lord. Distribution of charity, by using it for austerities, by worshipping the Lord, we can purify it. Giving in charity also purifies the heart, because it helps us to become detached from material things, and it cleanses the desire for fruitive results. So fruitive results means working and enjoying the results of our work. So we can become very, very attached to the work that we're doing, the results, and that's very bad. So when we give in charity, it helps us to detach ourselves. One does not become a loser by giving to the Lord, but he becomes a gainer by millions of times. We know that when we take one step towards Krishna, he takes 100 steps towards us. So we don't lose at all. Actually, it is said that Krishna has 1,000 hands. We have 2 hands. And when Krishna gives us, he gives with 1,000 hands, but we have only 2. To accept all of this is very difficult. It's that we cannot. He gives so much, we can't really handle all of that. And when Krishna takes with 1,000 arms, we can't really protect our belongings from him. We have only 2 hands. He's gonna take everything. Here we can see in this picture in Krishna Lila, we know how the fruit lady who came to Nandagram, she was selling fruits. We see that Krishna gave the lady a handful of rice grains, and she accepted it because she was very charmed by the beautiful appearance of Krishna, and her heart melted with love, and she just piled the mangoes on Krishna's in Krishna's hands. And we can see what happened. Krishna, by his mere glance, turned all her fruits into precious jewels. That's because he was very pleased, because the lady was offering all of this with love. So one will never lose by offering to the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami actually recommends, he recommends that one's income, 50% should be spent for the Lord in the mission of spreading consciousness about Krishna. So in propagating Krishna consciousness, telling others about the Lord, reviving their the spiritual interest in Krishna, in developing a relationship with Krishna. So how do we give charity? So there are, in the scriptures, in the Bhagavad Gita also, there are ways in which we should give charity. Now, a lot of people may be giving charity. They may have selfish motives. It can be subtle. It can be very. It can be subtle, or it can be very. A person may be aware of it. So someone may want fame. Someone may want recognition in society, show off the wealth, or just want to come across as a very kind person, gain a reputation of being kind, of being selfless, of being generous, or even of being very rich. Or somebody may just do it because they feel material happiness from doing it. So that's there are always motivations. Rarely one would give selflessly. Well, some people may give selflessly, but at the end of the day, what is the value of this charity? It is, Prabhupada says, there are 2 varieties of self-interest. One is concentrated interest, and the other is expanded interest. So concentrated as in just our immediate family. Expanded means, so a person has extended their self-interest to the country, to the family, to society. So that's called extended self-interest. and that is not actually philanthropy. And Prabhupada says philanthropy is when one becomes interested in Krishna's interest. So the situation is that we're not the body, and when we're doing charity work, it's always, most of the time it's going to be on the bodily platform, where we're trying to give clothes, or we're trying to give food to somebody, money. So that's on the bodily platform. The truth is, we're the soul, we're the eternal soul, and the soul is starving for a relationship, for revival of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. We're meant to be eternally happy, full of knowledge and bliss, because the Supreme Lord, of whom we're part and parcel, is all of that. And the reason we're here in this material world is because we're here to reform ourselves, and we're going to suffer. There's no way we can alleviate a person's suffering forever. For instance, if we see somebody on the road who's hungry, we may give that person a little bit of food, and that may satisfy them for the day. But then what's going to happen the following day and the day after, and the whole of his life, and he will still be miserable, because we cannot escape the miseries of this world, which are threefold: adi devika, adi bhautika, adi atmika. So miseries pertaining to bodily pain, mental problems, miseries pertaining to the demigods, so natural calamities, heat, extreme cold, miseries from other living beings. All these miseries will be there, and there's no question of us ever being able to eliminate the miseries. So the real philanthropy is when we awaken the dormant love for the Supreme Lord in that person, when we connect them with the Supreme Lord, who is the reservoir of all happiness. So that person becomes happy, peaceful, and understands life and the purpose of life, and what is death, and what is the point of this human life. And that person achieves true happiness by connecting with the Supreme Lord, and that is the highest welfare work we can possibly do for a person. It's easy to understand. For example, let's say there's somebody who is hungry, right? We may give him food 1 or 2 days, and that may help him. But then if we had, say, helped that person to acquire his own food forever by providing a job to him, that is better than just giving food one-off. In the same way, when we're trying to help the body, we're trying to help a person on the bodily platform, it's temporary. Our body is temporary, and we're not really solving the problem of birth and death, which is actually the real problem of everyone. So let's just come back to the question of how do we give charity. So charity is given out of duty, without expectation of return. So we're not expecting to get anything back. We're not expecting that we'll acquire pious activities, pious results from doing this charity work, that the person will give us recognition, gratefulness, and gratitude, or we'll make a big name for ourselves. So we don't expect anything in return. We're doing it out of duty, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person. This kind of charity is considered to be in the mode of goodness. So actually there's 3 different types of charities mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 17. So 17:20 says, of the Bhagavad Gita says, charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. And then there is charity in the mode of passion. So text 21. But charity performed with the expectation of some return, with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion. And finally, text 22. Charity performed at an impure place at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So 3 kinds of charities. When we're giving charity, we want to be adopting text 20. We want to be giving charity as a sense of duty without expecting anything in return, at the proper time and place and to a worthy person. So in Bhagavad Gita 17:28, Krishna also says, anything done as sacrifice, charity or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. So we can see that charity is not something we just go about in a very haphazard way out of our whims. There are certain regulations there. Indiscriminate charity is not recommended in the Vedic scriptures. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. So charity should be given, as we said, grihastas need to feed others, they need to give charity, and should be doing that without any consideration of return, and with respect to proper time and place. So proper place would be at a place of pilgrimage, so temple or holy place, and at lunar or solar eclipses or at the end of the month. Charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. So to the proper person, a worthy person would be a person who is engaged in spiritual activities, a qualified Brahmin or Vaishnava, or in temples dedicated to elevating people's consciousness, preaching God consciousness. So charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion. So having said that, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't give. If somebody's asking, say somebody approaches us on the road and says that they are very hungry and they haven't eaten and they are asking, it doesn't mean that we just say no because you're not a worthy person, or it's not the proper time, it's not the proper place, so we just not help that person. That's not to say that we should do that. Charity to the poor is given out of compassion, but only if a poor man is worthy of it as well. Because if the man wants charity, wants money, but then goes off to the pub to have a good drink, then that means that's charity in the mode of ignorance. That means we would have helped that person to perform some sinful activities, and that's bad implications for us. So we don't want that. There definitely wouldn't be any spiritual advancement for us. So we have to be very careful when we give charity to people. So the best thing is if we donate money or food to Krishna's temples, to maybe donate to further the mission of Srila Prabhupada, to spread God consciousness, to liberate people from the cycle of birth and death. So when we donate to Krishna's temples, we're giving to Krishna actually through his devotees, because devotees will utilize this money to organize festivals for the Lord, or for feeding the devotees feeding people prasadam, or buying Prabhupada's books and distributing to everyone for everyone's welfare. Utilizing it for different projects. If we donate money or food to other institutions, we don't know what they're using it for, whether they're using it for the right purpose, for the right cause. So it's at our own risks. So we looked at 3 types of charity already, and now we're going to look at examples of great personalities who gave charity. So we have very, very famous Bali Maharaj, who surrendered everything to the Lord. He was a very charitable king of demons, and when Lord Vamanadev came to Bali Maharaj to beg for charity, although Bali Maharaj was discouraged from giving by his own spiritual master, still he disobeyed his spiritual master, which is normally very serious thing, serious offense. He disobeyed his spiritual master because he promised to give to Vamanadev, and he kept his promise. We know that the Lord reciprocated by blessing him with his own planet, and he became very famous as an exalted devotee of the Lord. We have here King Nriga. So we know the story of King Nriga and how he became a lizard because he got cursed by a Brahmin, by some unfortunate turn of events, where he was giving to charity, but then one cow escaped from one Brahmin and went to the other, and the cow he wandered back to the barn of the king, and then the king, when he gave to charity, he gave that cow as well to charity to stop different person, and then they both were fighting over it. Both Brahmins are fighting over the cow, and one of them cursed the king. So King Nriga, he was very, very charitable person. And then we have King Shibi, who we will be looking at in the next slide. King Shibi, he gave his own flesh to protect a pigeon from a vulture. He was a very charitable person. Here we have Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison house. So Vasudeva, when Krishna appeared in the prison house, when Krishna was born, so to say, as their son, Vasudeva, he wanted to perform a charitable ceremony to celebrate Krishna's appearance, but because he was shackled within the walls of Kamsa's prison, this was not possible. But that didn't prevent him. Within his mind, he gave thousands of cows to the Brahmins, within his mind. And then we have Nanda Maharaj here in Vrajadam. So Nanda Maharaj, to celebrate Krishna's appearance, he organized some ritualistic ceremonies, and he gave huge quantities of grains and many cows to the Brahmins who were chanting the Vedic hymns and performing those ritualistic ceremonies. He gave so many cows in charity to them. And even Krishna, the Supreme Lord himself, when Krishna comes, he wants to be a model for everyone. Although he's the Supreme Lord and he doesn't need to do all of this, still he wants to show us a good example of how we should behave. So even Krishna himself, when Krishna was residing in in Mathura or Dwarka, Krishna himself, he would give 13,054 decorated cows in charity daily. So every single day when he was living in Dwarka, he had 16,108 palaces, and from each of these palaces Krishna would give in charity 13,054 decorated cows. So that's quite incredible. Right, so we said we would look at the story of a very charitable king called Maharaj Shibi. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very beautiful story about Maharaj Shibi. So Maharaj Shibi was a very he's a very charitable king. So obviously, we know as kings are representatives of the Lord, and they must possess this attitude of giving protection to surrounded souls and giving to charity. So Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed that he actually he even wanted to give his acquired position in the heavenly kingdom to Yayati, but Yayati did not accept it. So anyway, while on earth, this Maharaj, he was very famous as a protector of surrounded soul and a donor of charities. Once the king of heaven, Indradev, took the shape of a pigeon hunter bird, an eagle, and the fire god Agni took the shape of a pigeon. So the pigeon was being chased by the eagle, and he took shelter on the lap of Maharaj Shibi. But the eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. So the king, obviously, his duty was to protect the pigeon, and he didn't want to give it to the eagle for the eagle to eat him. So he requested the eagle not to kill the pigeon. The eagle refused to accept the king's order, but later on it was settled that he would accept this if the king gave his own flesh instead of the pigeon. The king sacrificed his own flesh, and he gave to the eagle the pigeon's equivalent weight in flesh. So the king, without hesitation, he began to cut flesh from his body to weigh in the balance, to equivalent to the weight of the pigeon. But no matter how much flesh he would put there, the mystic pigeon always remained heavier, so he could not put enough flesh there to be equal to the pigeon's weight. So the king, obviously, was very perplexed, but then he put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon. So basically, he gave himself in sacrifice to protect that pigeon. So the demigods were really pleased with him. And so Indradev, the king of heaven, and the fire god, they disclosed their identity, and the king was blessed by them. Narad Muni also, he glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great act of sacrifice and his act of charity and protection. So that's an interesting story there of Maharaj Shibi. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we should do this, but it's just a beautiful story from Srimad Bhagavatam of a great act of charity. So this is just a little glimpse on the verse. In this day and age, as we said, the greatest act of charity is to give Krishna consciousness to others, so we can save people from the cycle of birth and death. We can perform the sacrifice of Sankirtan Yagya, which is very, very easy. All we need to do is chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And simply, by the simple process of chanting the holy name, we can achieve all perfection in this life and be liberated and go back at the end of this very lifetime to the spiritual world. So why not take this easy process that Krishna himself has given us? Thank you for your attention. Hare Krishna.